Here we are for another round of the 70s versus the 90s, and it's a real steamy one when I put Roger Vadim's Pretty Maids all in a row against John McNaughton's Wild Things. And like I said, this was a real steamy one because, I mean, first off, we've got Roger Vadim, who's, most notable for making like French sex comedies. He brought the world Bridget Bardot, and, he was able to get Jane Fonda to take her clothes off in Barbarella. And this is his follow up to Barbarella, which is crazy when you think about it because the script is also written by Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, and he also produces the film. And so in a way, like both of these cats are coming off of space shit. And so now they're coming together to do this coming of age tale that is honestly one of the most honest and like real like movies about like male puberty and stuff. For as many like French films that have done it, the coming of age shit, a French dude had to come to America to make one because the main like the teenager that it centers around, John David Carson, Ponce de Leon, as he's called in the film. And this dude, like that opening sequence, the POV shots of this dude, like just, checking out all the chicks, like all he can think about is tits and ass, because all the boy needs is to get laid. And then you got the guidance counselor, who's also the football coach, played by Rock Hudson, who's also banging all the fucking young high school chicks. And even like, even the fellow teachers like Angie Dickinson in the film, like she's getting all hot and bothered by him too, which is like, when it's almost like the film itself is in on the joke, like they all know, like, which is it's something that a lot of people don't talk about, how like, Rock Hudson was a flaming homosexual, but and especially at that time in Hollywood where you could still keep shit a secret, and always played these manly roles, like Giant being one of the biggest examples of that. But he played these manly roles where you really couldn't like think that this dude might be gay or anything, but. And especially throw him in a movie like Pretty Maids all in a row, like even he's got a hot wife too, and so, but there's also a murder mystery in this shit, the fucking Ponce ends up finding a girl dead in the toilets, and then you enter Telly Savalas, right before Kojak, kind of. I feel like this might have been the reason he got Kojak, because the way he played that shit, and his fucking partner is James Doohan, Scotty from Star Trek. And, but it honestly, what's crazy about this movie is like, it's a murder mystery, but in a way it's almost like a parody and like a social satire film. Cause really the film itself is more about like the coming of age, of Ponce's, the character of Ponce as he's going through puberty and all this shit and just trying to get laid. And like it even poses that question because like you see like Rock Hudson banging all these young girls in the film, but then you got Angie Dickinson ends up breaking Ponce's cherry in the film, which is all of that is really done very tasteful because it's not like they ain't like get some real like busty tits out fucking teacher, what I mean? But granted, Angie Dickinson would have to try really hard not to be sexy. Like I imagine, she just rolled out of bed and she was just sexy as fuck, and then the titties in the kid, just the way the film itself is hilarious and a lot of subtleties. Roddy McDowall is the principal. That dude's a fucking who you got. Keenan Wynn is a bumbling like sheriff and stuff. And, it's just, the whole movie is just real fun. And then like, but then when the mystery starts picking up, it doesn't really like get too heavy into that. And mind you, spoilers, if you haven't seen either one of these movies, watch them. If don't be bitching to me because they're spoilers, Don't say that I didn't warn you and shit. But, the crazy thing is we find out that like, it was Rock Hudson killing these women because, that it ends up he ends up confessing to Ponce, and then it drives the car off the fucking dam or off the pier and shit, and they never find his body, and then Ponce gets away, and like at the funeral he's labeled a hero and he gets away with it, and Telly Savalas is the detective. He has a sneaking suspicion that he sees the fucking Brazil airline ticket to fall out of the wife's purse at the funeral, and so he's like, maybe I'll go to Brazil. But it just ends in a way that's very intriguing it's almost like Rock Hudson is passing the torch off to the John David Carson character of Ponce, because like, you know, he orchestrates it where like, you know, Angie Dickinson ends up fucking Ponce and stuff and it breaking his cherry, but then like in a way like through Rock Hudson's confessional to Ponce, he's like, you know, realizing it's like maybe I shouldn't have been fucking around with these girls, you know, and it kind of passes passing the power of getting pussy off the Ponce, because as we see at the end of the movie, dude's just like racking them up all in a row, which is who should be fucking the young girls, you know, because dude already had a hot wife and everything. He would be greedy and shit, you know. And then we move forward to Wild Things, you know, very similar concept, but instead of in L.A., you know, with kind of the youth counterculture scene thrown in there, which is kind of inevitable in the early 70s, especially in a film that takes place in LA. But then we move to Florida, where we have Matt Dillon as a guidance counselor. And, you know, of course, you know, that dude is like all the young female students are kind of fawning over him. Specifically, Denise Richards, you know, is smoking hot in this film, you know, as well. Nev Campbell, there's something going on with her. And then, you know, but then it comes out like he gets accused of raping these gals, and so then his shit gets all thrown around, and you know, because you know he's kind of a man about town. You know, he's even fucking Teresa Russell, who plays Denise Richards' mom in the film, who is, you know, anything but subtle. You know, walking out, robe all open in her drawers and shit and stuff, but. You know, the film itself is very fucking trashy, you know, and you got Kevin Bacon, you know, I'm not afraid of a lot of things, but Kevin Bacon might be one of them. That dude is just one sinister, like, psycho motherfucker, man. And he not as much so, not like River Wild type psycho, but, you know, he plays it sleazy to the hilt. You know, this film is very like James M. Cain with a lot of Freudian subtext and shit, but then come to find out, you know, it was all a setup just to get, you know, the moms get the trust fund, because, you know, Denise Richards can't get the trust fund until her mom dies and all this shit. But then through all that shit, Bill Murray might be the best part of probably the second best part, because honestly, the lesbian shit is you know, no, Bill Murray's still the best part, because honestly, for as sexy as the lesbian shit is, it's not even the best like lesbian three-way shit that I've seen in a movie. You know, the sex might be better than in Pretty Maids All in a Row. Honestly, with Pretty Maids All in a Row, it's almost done more in a comical fashion. You know, almost like they get the joke. Whereas like Wild Things, it takes itself so seriously that it becomes a fucking joke. Because honestly, by about the fourth or fifth twist, I kind of lost interest, you know. And when they reveal everything, you know, kind of like, you know, like a magician showing you all the tricks and shit after the movie says the end, that's some lazy shit. You know, it's kind of lazy, contrived writing. And I think the biggest issue is that John McNaughton did not write the script. Had John McNaughton written this script, it would have been a lot better. But I feel like maybe they thought he may have been the only person available or some shit to direct it, but I feel like he would have had a lot stronger of a fucking script other than this, you know. I mean, you know, Nev Campbell is hot, and so is Denise. You know, the movie itself, like everybody's hot, and they got a hot judge. You know, they give Kevin Bacon a hot partner. Like there's like no ugly chicks in this movie. This film is specific, and you know, neither is there any ugly chicks in Pretty Maids All in a Row, but it somehow feels more organic. You know, I mean, there's gotta be, you know, I don't know. There's be some ugly women in the movie, you know, or at least some plain, because even the woman running the I think Nev Campbell's mother in the film, you know, she was looking pretty hot too, you know, but the movie itself is just so trashy just for the sake of being trashy, you know, kind of like those fucking pulp novels and shit with 100 twists and turns like a fucking bad Hitchcock movie. And so, you know, I think it's got to go to the 70s on this one, you know, because Pretty Maids All in a Row is just a far better movie. It's a much better time. It's not trying to be more clever than it is. You know, this was kind of a drawback to a lot of films from the 90s where it was just like, you know, 30 fucking twists and turns, see how clever we are to ride ourselves out of this situation, where it was like, where the fact that Rock Hudson's character, he does get away with it, and we're left to imagine, you know, what he does after is way more poignant than, you know, the inevitable betrayals that follow in Wild Things. Because a lot of that shit, you know, if you're well versed in like film noir and Hitchcockian tropes, you know, all that pulpy bullshit, you kind of already know what's coming. And then, oh well, the fucking, you know, she's actually a genius, by the way. You know, she had y'all the time. You know, it's like, motherfucker. It just lame, lame, lame. So for anyone keeping score, that's 25-24. 70s broke the tie. They are now currently up by one. Like I said, you know, the 70s, man, one of it's the greatest decade in my opinion, but we still got a long way to go before we know that for sure. All I know is they keep coming back. You can't fuck with them no matter how hard the 90s try to do it. The 70s still come back with it, you know. And like I said, if I said anything wrong, anything you disagree with, feel free to eviscerate me in the comments. I really don't care. This is all fun for me. I have no life. That's why I keep doing this shit instead of actually going out and meeting people and stuff, you know. But I'm on a mission, though. Until I finish this shit, I cannot rest until I figure out which decade was better, the 70s or the 90s, you know. And, like, you know, just seeing, like, I've never seen a movie deal with, like, a man going through puberty the way that Pretty Maids All on a Road did. It's something special. Those POV shots, like, you know, honestly, this is probably Roger Vadim's masterpiece, you know, and it's really just all about just how sex drives society and how these fucking laid back fucking like teachers like that kind of ruin shit, you know, ruining the world and stuff, you know, and all. You know, you start like Angie Dickinson says, you start fucking your students. You know, where does it end? You know, like it's fucking crazy. You know, that's the thing about why Pretty Maids on a Roll wins this round, is because it has a way of saying a lot without saying a lot. You know, it's a fun just ride of a movie, but then it's also very thought provoking. Whereas like Wild Things, the only thought that runs through your mind is like, why am I watching this past the fucking lesbian shit? So, anywho, and if you got any suggestions, it's all good. The next one we got coming up is the Swinging Cheerleaders versus Bring It On. So that one should be really interesting. Like I said, the summer's almost over, but this shit is only heating up.